everybody. Welcome to the Great Books, Big Ideas channel. My name's Jim. Time for another small book haul video. My last book haul update was the Zen book haul, an anti-book haul, a book haul clapping no other hand because I didn't get anything. And in the ongoing spring 2025 haul wars, that would chalk up as a major defeat, a rout. I was routed by swarms of book buyers with scanners on their wrists and other patrons of the media public library. And I just got flushed out of there before I had a chance to really I just didn't want to stand in line and get a whole the small amount of books that I had picked out. So that was I just went into full retreat. I was routed that day. And I've been licking my wounds ever since. And I decided to make myself feel better, to buy a few books from Library of America. So I want to show you 3 books that I got on their recent spring sale, which was 20% off. I couldn't pass that up. And I'll show those to you. And I also have a little library find. I might start with a little library find because it's been a while since I've been able to scout the little free libraries in my neighborhood because my dog is old and he doesn't walk as far as he used to. So we don't even make it to the little free libraries too much anymore. But I have been able to get out in the early mornings when the weather's nice while he's kind of napping on the sofa in the living room, and I sneak out for like a little 15-minute walk/jog, and that has given me the opportunity to visit some little free libraries that I haven't had a chance to really scout for quite a while. So I'll start with that. This was a good find. I found Daniel Mason, North Woods. This was a book that was much discussed a couple years ago. My wife read it, or she'd actually listened to the audio book. And this was sitting in a little free library in our park, that's about a block away. And it comes from Mountain View Library in Mountain View, California. I don't know if they're looking for this title, but somehow it ended up in Westchester, Pennsylvania. So if you're viewing this and you work for the Mountain View Public Library and you need this book back, send me an email. I'll put my email in the description. But I don't know if it was a discard or what happened there. But yeah, so that's what it is. So what is this book about? A sweeping novel about a solitary house in the woods of New England told through the lives of those who inhabit it across the centuries. A daring, moving tale of memory and fate. And this was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize, which really doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot, but for what it's worth, if that means something to you, that's that. Let's take a look at the first paragraph of the Dust Jacket copy. When 2 young lovers abscond from a Puritan colony, little do they know that their humble cabin in the woods will become the home of an extraordinary succession of human and non-human characters alike. An English soldier, destined for glory, abandons the battlefields of the New World to devote himself to growing apples. A pair of spinster twins navigate war and famine, envy and desire. A crime reporter unearths an ancient mass grave, only to discover that the earth refuses to give up its secrets. A lovelorn painter, a sinister con man, a stalking panther, a lusty beetle. As the inhabitants confront the wonder and mystery around them, they begin to realize that the dark, raucous, beautiful past is very much alive. This magisterial and highly inventive novel from Daniel Mason brims with love and madness, humor and hope. Following the cycles of history, nature, and even language, North Woods shows the myriad magical ways in which we're connected to our environment, to history, and to one another. It is not just an unforgettable novel about secrets and destinies, but a way of looking at the world that asks the timeless question, how do we live on even after we're gone? So that is North Woods. This This got a lot of high praise on BookTube. I think it made a lot of folks' best of lists for that year. Publishing date, if I'm not mistaken, is 2023. Yeah, 2023. It's hardcover. It's in good shape for a library book. It just has like the library stickers and stuff. But yeah, I was happy to get that. My wife was happy to get it because she was thinking of buying her own personal copy after listening to the audiobook. So don't know when I'll get to that, but maybe this summer. I like to read newer stuff every now and then. As I've said on this channel before, I am not well versed in contemporary books of any kind, but I do try to dabble in some newer books. And 2023 is like hot off the press in my world. Like, even though it's 2 years, like that's like nothing. So I'll give that a shot soon. Let me talk about my Library of America book finds. So after the debacle of the Battle of Media a couple of weeks ago, I went to Barnes & Noble to scout for the 100th anniversary annotated edition, the deluxe edition of The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. And they had a copy on the shelves, and I perused it. And I just wanted to see, if it was a book I wanted to buy. And long story short, it was. I'll show it to you in a second. But I didn't buy it from Barnes & Noble because I think that very same day, I got a promotional email from Library of America. I was a subscriber to Library of America. In fact, my wife got me a gift subscription to it. Like, this was maybe 10 or more years ago. And I stayed active, like receiving volumes in the mail off and on for, I don't know, a couple of years maybe. And then I basically, they have a feature on their subscriber site where you can park or pause your subscription, or you just say, I don't want you to send me any more books anymore. But you still get your subscriber account. Like, I still log in that way. And so I got this, I guess I'm on their email list from occasionally buying their titles and being on the subscriber list. So anyway, they said 20% off store-wide. Like, that's great. So I thought, I shopped the main website, and I was kind of picking through and made some selections. And then I think if your list price totals $50 or more, you get free shipping. So I picked out 3 books I wanted to get. But anyway, one of them was this, the annotated Great Gatsby. And I'm going to do a walkthrough video of this soon, but just to give you a sneak peek. So what the idea of this is, it's the 100th anniversary of this, one of the great American novels, right? You talk to students, and I used to talk to students all the time about their reading interests and stuff and what they liked in high school. And a couple of the books that always came up were The Great Gatsby. That's some of these students, like, they got that book. It was taught to them well. They got a lot out of it. They wrote papers about it. And it is a novel about an all-American character by the name of Jay Gatsby, a self-made man, and his unrequited love for another woman who's married to another man amongst the rich and famous of Long Island, New York. And so the other book that the students always say they like is, well, a lot of them like, a few books come up. One is The Giver by Lois Lowry. 1984 sometimes comes up, sometimes Catcher in the Rye, but that's a love or hate book for people. It's not unanimous praise. The Great Gatsby is one of the bigger ones that always makes like a favorite list. And there's a couple others that I'm not thinking of at the moment. Anyway, this is illustrated and it's annotated. So James L.W. West III is the editor. And on cream-colored pages, you have lots of illustrations You have lots of commentary in the sidebars. So this just looks like candy to me. Those of us who like illustrated books and who like historical context, and you want to know more about the literary and cultural history, you can peruse this. So I thought this was a good value for the money, and it was even better with the sale price, so I sprung for it. Now, I wouldn't recommend reading this, and I haven't read this version yet. I'm going to read it soon, but I think this is really targeted at people who already have read The Great Gatsby. Maybe they've reread it. It might be a favorite book of theirs, and they just want to celebrate it. They want to celebrate it by looking at an added value text, and that's what this gives you. So I would read The Great Gatsby in this edition, but I would be pausing along the way to read all the side notes and look at the illustrations. So it's a whole completely different reading experience. That wouldn't be the best way to read it for the first time, in my opinion. But for a reread, to just celebrate this great book, kind of a no-brainer for fans. All right, so that was part one of the order. Then I had to fill it out. So part two was a recent release, and I got this in a slipcased edition. So here's some of the quirks of being on the subscriber list at Library of America. You are entitled to buy the slipcover editions of books like this, right? Whereas if you go through the public-facing webpage and you put an order through, you're going to get a dust-jacketed copy of the same book. So you see a copy, this is an example up here of a Library of America with a dust jacket. I'm sure you've seen it before. So you have two options. They cost the same money, I think. But anyway, that's why this is because I bought it through the subscriber site and browsed the catalog through there. Now, it's very confusing the way Library of America does it. I don't know if anyone else here who buys Library of America books has had this problem. But sometimes when I go to the website, I'll get the little promotional email. I'll click through, I'll start browsing the site. I might start adding things to my cart. And then I decide, well, I want to sign in through the subscriber site. So I sign in. Sometimes it then just completely cancels out my shopping cart, and I have to start over again and sort of browse the catalog through the links that are inside the subscriber site. And other times it seems to work. And the strange things happened with this purchase where I was browsing a lot and I would put things in the cart and then I would come back later and change my mind and then I would add and take things out. Anyway, I had to start over a few times. And once I finally pulled the trigger and wanted to buy these books, I went through the subscriber site and I browsed the full catalog from inside that. And what I noticed is I actually got cheaper prices than if I would have gone through the public site and saved a few dollars that way. Now, it is at the expense of not getting the dust jacket for this. I don't mind these slip cases. I mean, I don't like that they're like cream colored like this, but so be it. They do protect the books. And the book that I got is one that they just released not long ago, Hannah Arendt, The Origins of Totalitarianism. And I've been chomping at the bit wanting to read this one, so let me read you. They give you a little insert here with the subscribers. In 1951, a monumental book by a relatively unknown German Jewish emigre cast a spotlight on the terrifying new mode of political organization underlying the simultaneous emergence of Nazism and Stalinism. Herself a refugee from Nazi persecution, Hannah Arendt sought from her exile in New York City to answer the fundamental questions raised by the unprecedented atrocities in the Soviet Union and Axis-occupied Europe. How could there be such barbarism in the midst of civilization? How had totalitarian governments succeeded in exerting an absolute control over millions of their citizens and in enlisting so many of them to commit mass violence? Arendt begins The Origins of Totalitarianism by exploring the historical conditions of these 20th century catastrophes. After a thorough examination of 19th century anti-Semitism in Europe and a trenchant account of the Dreyfus Affair in France, she turns to the rise of imperialism, describing how the radicalized violence of Europe's colonial powers enacted a dress rehearsal for what was to come, laying the groundwork for totalitarianism's advent in the 1920s and 1930s. Among the most chilling features of that era's totalitarian regimes, Arendt argues, were their demands for unquestioning loyalty to the ruling party and their efforts to warp shared perceptions of reality. Exploiting the pervasive loneliness of modern life, she writes, these governments conducted elaborate programs of psychological manipulation that offered meaning and a sense of belonging predicated upon the victimization of others. The Library of America Expanded Edition presents the complete text of the final authorized version. As a special feature, it includes in an appendix 2 chapters dropped from earlier editions that reveal how the book evolved in the decades after first publication. The first, her original concluding remarks, shows Arendt engaging with the emerging concept of human rights in the immediate aftermath of World War II. The second offers an early assessment of the suppressed Hungarian Revolution of 1956, a case study in resistance under totalitarian rule. This first annotated edition of Arendt's masterpiece features concise and thorough notes on her many historical and cultural references, as well as a newly researched chronology of her remarkable life and career. So that is Hannah Arendt, The Origins of Totalitarianism. And let me just peek at the very beginning of this to give you a taste of her writing voice. Let me read you the preface to the first edition. Just the first paragraph or two. 2 world wars in one generation, separated by an uninterrupted chain of local wars and revolutions, followed by no peace treaty for the vanquished and no respite for the victor, have ended in the anticipation of a third world war between the 2 remaining world powers. This moment of anticipation is like the calm that settles after all hopes have died. We no longer hope for an eventual restoration of the old world order with all its traditions, or for the reintegration of the masses of 5 continents who have been thrown into a chaos produced by the violence of wars and revolutions and the growing decay of all that has still been spared. Under the most diverse conditions and disparate circumstances, we watch the development of the same phenomena: homelessness on an unprecedented scale, rootlessness to an unprecedented depth. Never has our future been more unpredictable. Never have we depended so much on political forces that cannot be trusted to follow the rules of common sense and self-interest, forces that look like sheer insanity if judged by the standards of other centuries. It is as though mankind had divided itself between those who believe in human omnipotence, who think that everything is possible if one knows how to organize masses for it, and those for whom powerlessness has become the major experience of their lives. That's the first 2 paragraphs of the preface to The Origins of Totalitarianism. An important work, one that's being discussed quite a bit. I wonder why. And yeah, I'll get to this soon. It's going to be a major undertaking, but I'm looking forward to the challenge of it. The third book I've got, and again, through this sort of, somehow I fell upon this like tunneling through the subscriber account to get cheaper prices. This book only cost me maybe $8 and change. This is, from from like, it's a complete tonal shift here. But this is a book about Mad Magazine, and it's paperback, and it's called The Mad Files, Writers and Cartoonists on the Magazine That Warped America's Brain. And there is your cover. And it features 28 writers and artists who assess Mad Magazine's influence on American life and culture. And here's the list. It's a cool little book. It even includes some comics. You know, so here is one. Here's another. This is like several pages. Robert Crumb has a little thing in here. A 2-page spread. There's other illustrations. And yeah, it's all the little essays are short. They're very easy to read. I've already started this. I'm several pieces into it. Thoroughly enjoying it. If you're not from America, you may not know what Mad Magazine is and why it's worth paying attention to, in my opinion at least. Well, let me read you the French flap copy here, setting this up. Before SNL and the wise guy sarcasm of Letterman and Colbert, before The Simpsons and online memes, there was Mad. A mainstay of countless American childhoods, Mad Magazine exploded onto the scene in the 1950s and gleefully thumbed its nose at all the post-war pieties, unfazed by lawsuits, the ire of J. Edgar Hoover's FBI, and the scorn of critics and scolds, unwilling or unable to get the joke. Mad became the zaniest, most subversive satire magazine ever sold on America's newsstands. The Mad Files celebrates the magazine and its creators, the self-styled usual gang of idiots who transformed puerile punchlines and merciless mockery into an art form. 26 essays and comics present a varied, perceptive, and often very funny assessment of Mad's significance. Art Spiegelman, Roz Chast, and Chris Ware recall what Mad meant to them as children. David Haiju and Grady Hendrix zero in on Mad's hilarious spoofs. Leo Leibovitz delves into the Jewishness behind the magazine's humor, and Rachel Steer amplifies the unsung genius of Mad's women artists. Several contributors offer admiring profiles of the individual creators who made Mad what it was. Mort Drucker, Harvey Kurtzman, Al Jaffe, Antonio Prohias, and Will Elder. For diehard fans and newcomers alike, The Mad Files is an irresistible, indispensable guide to America's greatest satire magazine. Pure fun, pure crack cocaine into the veins for me. Like, because I grew up with Mad Magazine. I loved it. I got away from it for a while. And for a long time, actually. I guess it's the kind of thing where you feel like you outgrow it, right? But when you're just a little, snotty-nosed, wise-ass kid, there was nothing like Mad Magazine. I really particularly loved their movie spoofs, those satires. But the whole thing was just a joy, and you could just pore over them. And, it was so much fun. So just to kind of wrap this up, I guess back in 2017, I actually bought a couple copies of Mad Magazine from my supermarket newsstand because I just couldn't resist it. And I think I gave them to my daughter initially just to see what she thinks about it. I don't think she thought much of it. But anyway, here's what the covers of these look like. This one's called We Binge Mock Stranger Things. And this is Alfred E. Newman on the cover. And then we also have the 20 Dumbest People, Events, and Things of 2017. And here was that cover. So as of 2017, they were still producing Mad Magazine regularly. And then I think a year or two later, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, they ceased publishing regularly. But I don't think they're completely out of business. I think I still see Mad Magazine sometimes on the Barnes and Noble newsstand shelf, but I think they're like special issues or something. I'm not sure. I haven't really dug into it yet, but I'm getting inspired to do that. So after beginning this book, I read the intro, I read the first few essays in it. It's all wonderful. Like I can totally identify with it. This is my world, right? My warped sense of humor was primarily perhaps shaped by Mad Magazine. I just loved it. Anyway, I was at my local bookstore the other day. I've been in a real browsing mode lately, so I had recalled the last time I was in there, like they had something Mad Magazine related. So I went in there and they still had one back issue on the shelf which I scarfed up immediately. And this is the 300th issue of Mad Magazine from January of 1991. The sexiest schmuck alive. I don't know. Alfred E. Newman, my hero, right? But they actually have send-ups of 4 movies in this, which was great. Gone with the Wind, Dick Tracy, The Wizard of Oz, and Casablanca. And just to show you, I want to do a walkthrough of this because there's some stuff in here that you would never dream of getting. But here's like the first spread of their spoof of Casablanca called Casabunkers. And I've already been dipping into this, and it's making me laugh out loud. It's funny, and here I am at my age. I should have grown up by now, but maybe it's a good thing that I didn't grow up completely because I still have a funny bone for Mad Magazine, and I kind of regret stopping reading it. I probably would have saved. I didn't save any of my old back issues. I wish I had, but it's fun. I'm like totally getting turned on by this book to now like revisit some of these issues of Mad Magazine. I'll keep an eye out for them. Like it's just so much fun. And I want to show you more about from this issue, which even though it's late, it's in the early 90s, and a lot of people think Mad Magazine was starting to decline by then. This read to me like a lot of the original stable of writers and artists were still doing it for them by that point. So this just looked instantly familiar to me. It's kind of like, it's fun. It even has the fold in on the back where you fold this in and it creates an image. Those are always fun. But if you have happy memories of Mad Magazine or you think it was the stupidest thing ever, like let me know in the comments. I'd like to hear your thoughts. That is my little roundup for the past week or so. 3 books from Library of America, which I got on like a 20% plus discount, and I got the free shipping for it. And the North Woods from a little free library. And I'll be back with another reading update soon, I hope. And I also will be coming up soon with the Great Books Reading Plan video, the next installment on Aristotle's Politics, Book 1. I'm preparing that right now, so I hope to get to that possibly this weekend, if not sooner. Anyway, thanks for bearing with me. Let me know what you found lately. If you have thoughts about Great Gatsby, Hannah Arendt, Mad Magazine, North Woods, let us know in the comments. Also, I do have an email address posted in the show description now, so if you prefer to contact me by that way instead of putting comments, feel free. Look forward to hearing your thoughts and questions. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.